I'm back. Back from the dead like Jesus. Welcome to that GD show, everybody. I'm so happy to be back. I feel like it's been forever. Genevieve, you've been holding down the fort really well.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I had to kick you off the first night that you were gone.
Yeah, I was supposed to be on vacation, and I called in like a hovering mom. And I wanted to talk to, we had the naked pastor on, and I wanted to talk to him. And so Genevieve scolded me. You're supposed to be on vacation, Dave. Get out of here. So say hi to Drew Bekius and Langer Borghini Fongini.
That's right. Hello,
hey,
everybody.
folks.
Are you Italian? What the hell kind of name is that?
That's my Pastafarian name. Don't
high priest of the
don't
flying spaghetti
disrespect
monster.
the spaghetti.
Respect the spaghetti. That's it.
That's
I want
right.
that. That should be a T-shirt. Respect the spaghetti. Welcome to that GD show, folks. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight's episode. Oh, we may have a third Clergy Project member joining us, Duane Grady. He's traveling across America looking for an internet hookup, I think. Is that the best we know, Lon?
Yeah. He didn't forget about us.
I know he didn't. I've been in touch with him today.
He just hadn't got to us yet.
So Genevieve, tell us what we got. I mean, how do folks? It's a call-in show. How do they call in?
So you can call us. Our lines are open. We've got amazing call screeners. You just have to call 217-375-9933. I am so proud that I remembered that because we don't have our usual bar at the beginning.
It's not on the How did you remember that?
I've been saying it every Monday for the past few weeks.
I should have this number memorized, and it's terrible.
Well, the last four numbers stand for what would Dave do? So you should especially remember it.
I should.
So
anyway, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions about the Clergy Project, if you want to know what the hell is that, if you have experience with the Clergy Project, you are in it or have been in it, know someone who's in it, whatever, any kind of call you want, we'll take it. If you want to talk to a couple of ex-pastors and get their spiritual pastoral wisdom, I'm sure they still have some. There's our buddy Greg Markowski every week, like clockwork, $19.99 super chat. Thank you, my friend. I need to ask you, I'm going to ask you next time I send you a message, what's the $19.99 mean? I mean, it's right below $20. Is there some reason you do that? But anyway, tonight's show is the Clergy Project episode. What happens when a pastor loses his faith? And so, well, it could happen, as we know, it could happen to a pastor who's still employed by the church in the pulpit. Caught in the Pulpit was a book, right, Lon? And
yes.
Or it could happen to someone like me who was a pastor and lost my faith. So what I wanted to start with tonight, and hey, I got cookies. You are also a regular. She says, my weekly tithe for the clergy. Bless you, my child. God will honor that and bless you 100-fold.
Let's pass the plate.
Pass the plate.
Brother Dave, are we passing the plate tonight?
Well, in my circles, it was a bucket, because you expected a big haul. The plate just wasn't deep enough. No, actually, we had those little bags, those little cool bags. We'd pass those with the little handles on them. I don't know what the fuck we were doing. And Greg says, thanks, G&D and guests for the GD show. CTFD, that stands for Carpe the fucking diem. Love you guys. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it again. So let me start with you, Lon. You are the current, and Genevieve, I'm going to kind of get a little background on each of us, our pastoral history, and then connection to the Clergy Project. And then Genevieve has some questions that are burning in her mind for us as Clergy Project folk. But Lon, you are the current president of TCP. I'm going to say that instead of the long Clergy Project. Bill Castle, $20. Thank you. He's beat Greg. Let's have an auction. I like that idea. Oh, give me 20 on 19. I'm a terrible auctioneer.
Okay, you're almost speaking in tongues there.
Yeah, I got really close.
You got almost there.
I felt the Holy Spirit coming on me. And wow, the super chats are flying in off the bat. Non-crazy cat lady. Hugs for those who want them. I like that. She's asking for consent. That's very nice. DKK $17. I'm not sure what the DKK stands for.
I believe Denmark.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm friends with the non-crazy cat lady on TikTok. I should know exactly what country you're in. I'm so sorry.
Please forgive us. If you want to put it in the chat, non-crazy, that way we will know where you're from. And thank you for that very much. We appreciate it. So the tides are coming in. God is going to bless this show. Lon. Yeah, look at Drew up there praying. Tell me what kind of pastor you were. How long were you in the ministry? Blah, 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 blah. And then how long have you, a brief history of your connection with the Clergy Project?
Okay, sure. First I'll explain it. Lamborghini Fungini is a pseudonym. I'm also known as Lon Ostrander, and either way I go by Lon, so Lon is fine.
Okay, good. Glad we cleared that up, because I don't think anybody here thought that was your real name.
Well, it's not anybody else's name, so it must be mine. Yeah, so I went into the ministry midlife. I was 41 years old when God tapped me on the shoulder and told me I was supposed to preach. And evidently I believed it and started taking courses. And in 1995, at the age of 45, took my first church in Georgia. Soon got in trouble for talking to Black people, especially when some of them showed up for church. And then the next year I headed a little closer to home to Pennsylvania, where I got in similar trouble for being too cordial with Amish folks. So, Christianity is pretty much all the same, no matter where you find it. So,
what brand were you in terms of getting in trouble for?
I was with the Wesleyan Church.
Okay, so that you were too inclusive for them, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, so I pastored for only 6 years and was never caught in the pulpit, as we say, because I left to go back to industry where I came from to make a living and to not have to put up with the hassle. And it wasn't until 6 years after I left the pulpit that I gladly embraced the label of atheist.
Oh, really? Okay.
And discarded all the bullshit.
So you did not have a long pastoral ministry.
No.
Apparently, after your experiences there, it just didn't fit for you.
Yeah. It wasn't working out, and
right.
And I wasn't making enough to live on, so it was pretty much a financial disaster.
Yeah.
So
then, how many years after you quit the ministry that you realized you no longer believed in God?
So it was 6 years later.
Okay. And
so I was asking questions, questioning religious beliefs and exploring different denominations. And I sat down one day to make a list of beliefs that I thought I had good reason to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And number one was the existence of God, but I realized there was really no good reason to believe that. And that's as long as my list got. We just
short list.
Yeah. So I figured, well, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be an atheist. I'm not going to pray, not going to read the Bible, not going to think about any such thing as that, and see how it goes. And of course, if it doesn't go well, I can always repent.
You knew he'd take you back because he's that kind of guy.
Yeah. But I didn't want to go back. No second thoughts. It's been liberating. It's been great. All of a sudden, the universe makes some sense to me. And
no, isn't that true?
Yeah. And it was not without some concern from my family members, but we're doing okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Clergy Project joined in November of 2011. The Clergy Project actually launched its website initially in March of 2011. And so I was about number 100,
okay.
plus or minus 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got on a committee, got on the board, and Drew Bekius was at a point, he was the president of the Clergy Project, and he'll explain that life kind of overcame him a bit, and he couldn't handle it. And so I was just standing there minding my own business. And rather than God tapping me on the shoulder, Drew Bekius did.
I tell you what.
Who's your God now, bitch?
Drew right. Drew will tap you for a committee. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, so that was 2018, and I was in Mexico, and I was elected as president of the Clergy Project to complete Drew's term, and now I am in the first year of my second 3-year term.
Yeah, and doing well. Let me pause right there. I need to recognize these super chats before they get too far gone. Genevieve, can you grab them and the latest ones?
Yes, I got you. If you want to start reading off, oh gosh, there's a lot coming in. I got to stroll. Correa, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to meet you in person this weekend, Dave. Genevieve, you're dearly missed. Love you both. You're amazing. Derek Cruz, thank you so much. Glad you're back, Dave. Yep, so glad you're back too. Greg Murkowski, there you go, Billy. Your turn. There is a fight going on. Greg, please don't give away your lunch money. Please make sure you can feed yourself. Bill Castle, thank you so much. Grumpy Gardner, over the lips and past the guns like a tummy. Here it comes. Amen.
We missed Aunt Kathy.
Aunt Kathy, oh dear. Oh gosh. Happy to be
$9.99.
free from religion. Thank you so much, Aunt Kathy. I know I've just been hopping around, but I think we're caught up. You guys are incredible.
Well, Greg's got, he's $4.99 again. Back to the challenge. There goes the super chats are coming in for you guys. Lon and Drew, these are just our faithful viewers that support the show, and they send these super chats, these donations, and they're wonderful. It's like the tithe, it's like the offering. It keeps the show going, pays our bills, and helps us so much. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate that. And we got a question in the chat we're going to get to after Drew shares a little bit, but Darren Wright, if we can find that again, Ethan, or Genevieve, a question about preachers' kids. So we want to deal with that a little bit. But Drew, you, as Lon mentioned, were a former president of TCP. You followed who? If I'm trying to recall who was president before you.
I was the second, and a gentleman named Terry was the first president of the Clergy Project. And I do also want to mention, you're talking, you're covering the super chats and everything. I did also mention it wasn't a super chat, I don't think, but another TCP member, Mr. Mason Lane. I saw him log in earlier.
Oh.
He gave a little shout out to the three of us here. Well, 4, including you, Genevieve.
Mason, give us a
sure
call.
If you know Mason.
Hello,
yes, Mason, you got to call in, brother.
Give us a call, brother.
Brother, and say hello. All right.
And bring your guitar.
Yeah, well,
bring that guitar.
So,
but yeah,
Drew,
so to answer your question, so what kind of pastor was I? I was crazy, sold out from the beginning. I in high school started my first nonprofit ministry. In high school is way too serious. So serious as a high schooler, way too serious. Had to make up for it later in
A
life.
little nerdy, maybe, huh?
Oh yeah, nerdy. One of my nicknames was Preacher Boy. Okay, so yeah, started preaching at 17. Started my nonprofit at 16. Where if we know Billy Graham, so I helped staff the Billy Graham crusade. Such an amazing word, right? It was a crusade.
Yeah, not just a meeting.
Yeah.
It's a crusade.
So I helped staff that in the late 90s when I was in high school as well. So just did a bunch of different stuff, and then went on from there to go, pick up go to Bible college and seminary.
Bible college where?
In Chicago. Went to Moody
That's
Bible Institute.
That's about as conservative as it gets, if I'm not wrong.
Dave, I don't know if this is you, but I have heard that within the realm of Bible colleges, Moody is considered more leftward, if you will, or more progressive. So like amongst those who, so I didn't grow up.
What? I think I was thinking of Wheaton. Wheaton is the more fundamentalist arm, and they're also in Chicago or outside Chicago.
Yeah, a friend of mine, she went to Moody, and because she went to Moody, her church disowned her because it was just this liberal.
Yeah, it was a bit more to the left, right?
But that said, though, it was thoroughly evangelical. So if you define evangelicalism, if the litmus test, if you will, of evangelicalism is believing that whatever the Bible says, it is the inspired and inerrant word of God.
Right.
And within that, so for myself, the kind of pastor I would become, I pastored at two different churches. Both just kind of generally evangelical, if you will. The one was EFCA, Evangelical Free Church. I was a staff pastor there for 7 years. And then I went on to be the lead pastor of a church within, they used to be known as the Baptist General Conference. Now, as of about 10 or 15 years ago, it's called Converge Worldwide, right? That's their missional name. But so, typical of Baptist churches, Baptist is the original non-denominational, right? Technically being Baptist means you're not denominational.
Right.
There's a wide range within there. I was evangelical. Bible's the inspired inerrant word of God. And yet I was about as far leftward as you can go in the way I interpreted that. And so that second church I was at was a bit more progressive in how.
So it wasn't the literal word of God, every word, every jot and tittle.
Well, it depends on how you define literal, I guess.
Well, inerrancy is the word that's used, right, Lon? Where every single thing that's said in the book happened as it's written. Every word that was said to be spoken by a character in the book was exactly as it was spoken. Yeah. Did you land there?
So yes. Well, but here's what it is. So at least how I was taught in seminary is that literal, if it's the literal word of God, all literal means is that whatever the Bible is trying to communicate is truth. That I believed. Whatever the hell it's trying to say, that is truth. However, we humans, we muddy it up all the time, which is why you have such wide variety of interpretations. Gotcha. So we had the humility to say, I'm not totally sure that I know exactly what the hell it's saying, but whatever it is, it's real and it's true and it's from God and it's authoritative. It's our job to rely upon the Holy Spirit to help decipher what it is and then live that out.
Okay.
But so a little bit more humble, though, I guess, in how we approached it.
Even if it was a true and inspired metaphor.
Yeah. Okay. So It gave you a lot of leeway to make sense of the contradictions. It gave you a nice out.
Well, and for instance, like when you look at Jesus's Psalms. Jesus's
Jesus wasn't in the Psalms.
What's the word? The thing that he would do. See, it's been over
the parables.
I haven't opened
parables.
The Bible
the parables.
10 years. Parables. Yes, parables. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Wow, it's gone, baby. It's gone. I don't know. I have no interest in
Wait, doesn't it feel good? No,
I
tell you what. I don't know about you, but when I can't remember something in the Bible, I actually feel good about it because I don't want that shit in there. I did a Bible trivia thing at a conference with Aaron Ra last year, and I was shocked and quite disappointed at how much I remembered because I want that shit out of there. Kim Possible, thank you for your contribution. 666. She's our Antichrist donator, super chat. Heathen in the house, send him some support. Thank you, Kim Possible. Love you, babe. That's she does that every week. 666. We keeping it unholy here. So, Drew, you documented your journey out of faith in your book, The Rise and Fall of Faith. Wonderful book, by the way. Folks need to get that and read it. But briefly, tell us what turned the corner for you. Had you, this zealot for God? What the hell happened? And how did you find the Clergy Project?
Well, it was a 2-year journey, would be a nice way of putting it. So, it was 2 years of just fighting, wrestling for my faith. And really, I'll just started off with just biblical credibility. The more I read and studied the scriptures, the more I realized that it's not holding up. Even within itself, it was the internal contradictions that really got me more than anything else. So even within itself, it doesn't agree. Even just on numbers, it'll tell a story once with one set of numbers, then in it, a couple books later, tell the exact same story. And it tells you we're repeating this story, and yet it's got a different set of numbers for the exact same thing. So like stuff like that really had a hard time with. And yet the Bible says, right, that, that if you turn to him in faith, he'll renew your faith, and strengthen your faith. And I'm turning to him asking for help and guidance, and he wasn't helping or guiding, at least not towards anything sane. And so, so I kind of went more crazy than normal over a couple of years there. And then eventually was like, you know what, I need to get out. One of two things is real. I'm not sure which, but one of two things, either I am not fit for Christian ministry, or Christian ministry is not fit for this world. But either way, I need to get the hell out. And so I left. It wasn't until after I left that I realized I had become an atheist and finally accepted that and came to grips with it. So that was a few months after I had fully transitioned out of ministry. And then it was 2 whole years after that I discovered the Clergy Project.
Okay.
So I went for 2 full years thinking I was like literally the only person who had gone through this, or the only minister who had gone through this. And I found the Clergy Project, and it was really life-saving in a lot of ways. Within a couple months after joining the Clergy Project, someone else tapped on me to have me join the communications committee. And then a couple weeks later, then chair the communications committee and join the board. So I did that for a couple years, and then came on. Actually, Dave was one of the people. Dave, you were one of the people that convinced me to go and serve as president. Because I was a little reluctant. Do I have the time? Do I have the bandwidth? Yeah. And you're like, no, go for it, buddy. And so I did, and it was great. And then, as Lon alluded to, just some life stuff got in the way just life stuff got in the way, and I needed to step back. But it was all told, I was on board and in leadership for a little over 3 years, and it was great. I absolutely loved it and loved the Clergy Project.
Yeah, my experience was similar to you guys. It's interesting. Drew was the seminary, the normal path to ministry, if you will. You go to seminary, you get a license to preach. Lon, you came into it much later in life, and had a brief affair with ministry, if you will. And I kind of was in between that. I didn't go to seminary or anything, but I got into faith at a young age, at age 18, and then was just called and anointed by God to be a pastor, or to be a minister, to be whatever. And so I accepted that role because people told me I was. Mm-hmm. And then on and off throughout my entire adult life, I was sometimes in ministry full-time on staff at a church. Other times it was more of a lay leader, where I was involved with men's ministries or prayer teams or small groups or whatever, and doing other things to make a living. So it was a hodgepodge ministerial career for me. I found Clergy Project also a year or two after I left faith. And for me, it was a search for someone else that understood my journey. I was looking for any kind of connection to help me process the deconversion that I'd just experienced, because I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know anyone in my world that had been through that, and I felt very disoriented and alone. And I found the Clergy Project and found Dan Barker, who started it, and talked with him. and became a member. And then, I don't know, probably got on some committee or another. That's what happens. If you hang around long enough, they'll draft you for everything. And then I served as the worst secretary in the history of boards. And I was, I've talked about this before. We're in this meeting electing officers for the board, and it was like, okay, who wants to run for secretary? Crickets. Anybody? Crickets. Dave? Crickets. Okay, I'll do it.
I'm pretty sure, Dave, you're quoting me right now, actually, in all of that. So.
Yeah, you were the president, and
I remember this.
And no one was stepping up to be secretary, and I said, "Oh my God, I've got to take the fucking minutes." And so I did for a year or two, and actually, I didn't resign from that until I got diagnosed with ALS. I think you were president by then, Lon. Is that correct? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, we kicked Drew out, and you staged a coup, and Drew was forced out, if I remember this right.
With
like
pitchforks
that.
and fire. Yes,
Judas.
Yeah.
Oh, Judas.
Pitchforks and fire.
Yeah, the story's getting better as we go. So
Yeah, I like how I'm making this up. It's fun. I like to recreate history. That's kind of what we do in America now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the victors write the history.
Yes.
So I know, Genevieve, been talking to you earlier today. You had some, and we got a call coming in a minute, looks like. But you had some questions. You said, I've just got a head full of questions about TCP. Give us one. What do you?
I mean, so right off the bat, I am so grateful that this organization exists, and I'm so grateful to all of you guys for the parts that you have all played at one point or another in keeping it going. And I think as a lifelong atheist, I think it's fairly obvious to me why an organization like TCP needs to exist, because when it's one thing to lose your faith as a Christian, but when that's also your job and your community looks to you as sort of the spiritual leader, I can only imagine how difficult that is. And so my roundabout question from that is, what do Christians think to do with you guys? Like, what kind of reactions, not just, as individuals, like within your own communities and your families, but just sort of the Christians and the religious people that you come across when they hear about the Clergy Project? What type of reaction are you really getting from that? I can only imagine that from their perspective, it's completely bonkers.
Bonkers would be one word.
Yeah.
Heretical, hellbound, fire on your souls would be other terms.
Do you find there's more? I mean, I want you both to answer this question, but I will start because I've had that experience where I find that people's pushback is sometimes a little more vitriolic toward me, because they say I was a pastor. You're not, how could you turn on God like that? I had one person that used to be in my church in Arkansas, and he said, you used to lead people to God, and now you're leading them away from God. Shame on you. Have you guys experienced things like that, or what has been the reaction that you guys have had when people learn that you were clergy and now you're an atheist? Drew?
Yeah, I mean, so I've seen the gamut. I have, of course, you have all the way on the one side of things where, you have all that vitriol. I've received death threats, like actual legit death threats, whatever, from around the world. Because when I first left, I was blogging my deconversion for several months, for a couple of years, really, before I found the Clergy Project mostly. And so, like I had people around the world like sending me death threats and stuff. That's kind of died down. But I've had people from my hometown, send me stuff, and, I hope you rot in hell and flames and burning and blah, 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 blah.
Sweet Christian love.
Yeah, good Christian love. That said, I've had people as well on the entire other spectrum of the gamut. So I've had, my second church where we were more progressive, right? In the way we interpreted things anyway. But so a lot of them still remain friends of mine, maybe not super close, but like we're in touch. I'm going back to Chicago. So I spent a little over 20 years in Chicago. Now I'm back in Minnesota where I grew up. But I'm going back to Chicago in a couple of weeks. I've got folks from my church that want to meet up with me. Like we're cool, like they're cool, and they still believe, they're genuine believers, but they're not the kind that can't be cool.
Right.
I've also, one time I even had a missionary from one of the churches I pastored, and I won't say any more beyond that, but I have had, because there were dozens and dozens of missionaries that we supported between the two churches. But I have had one of the missionaries come to me and say, hey, just so you know, like, I'm going to keep doing my thing, but I think I'm an atheist as well. And so like, that's kind of crazy looking back, like, wow, one of the missionaries that we supported is also now low key, maybe possibly a non-theist. Anyway, so wide spectrum. That has been cool to see. It's not just the one side.
Yeah, and that said, just I want to make sure that the people know that it's not just ex-pastors. Oh, hey, Mario Zambrano, $20 super sticker, my good friend. He's a wonderful friend here in Charlotte. He's actually, Mario, I'll send you a message. We've got a flight Saturday to Houston. So he's the guy, he's a friend who anytime we're flying anywhere, he comes and gets us to the house, takes us to the airport. He's just amazing. So I'll let you know what's up, Mario. Thanks so much. I was going to say, it's not just ex-pastors. You mentioned missionaries. There are ex-missionaries in the Clergy Project, nuns, worship leaders, Christian counselors, anybody who was in a form of ministry where that was your living, or that was your career, that was your job, and you lost that faith in a supernatural deity. It runs the gamut of all kinds of different positions within ministry, if you will. So that's important to know. So Lon,
maybe also throw in real quick, Dave, it's not, oftentimes it's assumed that it's all Christian, former Christian ministers.
Good point.
But every major religion in the world is represented within TCP's membership participant list. And so, there's atheists in the Middle East, or there's atheist imams in the Middle East. Everything everywhere. So just to throw that in.
Yes. And we have probably a few dozen rabbis or former rabbis. We have a Mooney, former Riley.
Oh, wow.
Priest. We have a couple Wiccans and a Native American medicine carrier. So,
okay.
So we're quite diverse, although we are about 96-97% former Christians. So
yeah. I see that Duane Grady has jumped in and joined us with an incredibly hot haircut. So, hey, Duane, how are you doing? Are you there?
How are you doing, Tennessee Dave? I'm fantastic.
And you've got
a new office.
You've got a Wi-Fi set up in your tent. Is that what I'm to understand here?
Oh, it was rough.
Wow.
We're in the south end of Oklahoma.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It's interesting because I'm sitting here, this is probably right in the middle of the Bible Belt.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, it's part of the buckle, at least one of the holes there. So Duane is a former pastor. He's joining us late because he had trouble getting Wi-Fi set up in his tent. And there he goes. See, pastors are just undependable as a whole.
Duane will return.
Yeah. So
just it was Easter yesterday.
You gotta believe. Yeah.
You gotta believe.
Up from the dead, he will.
So, well, that was fun.
I told you he wouldn't forget us.
No, I knew he hadn't forgotten. I didn't know he was going to try to string Wi-Fi to a tent out in the southeast Oklahoma. That's a first for the show, right, Genevieve?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, you and I did it from California, but we at least were inside a house.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Oh, God.
So, Lon, what kind of pushback, to Genevieve's question earlier, what kind of pushback have you gotten when people found out that you were once a clergy and now you're an atheist?
Well, first of all, we probably should clarify, as an organization, we don't really get involved with deconverting believers.
No.
But in real life, we do encounter them from time to time. Probably the main concern would be pushback from our families. And,
Oh, yeah.
And my wife is still a believer, and she's not particularly fond of Lamborghini Fangini, but she's very in love with Lon Ostrander.
Well, how could she not be? Look at you. You're adorable.
I know. Thank you. And I was, gosh. They reminded me of the Bible story when the parable showed up at the ark and Noah wouldn't let him in. You remember that, right, Drew?
You say a parable showed up at the ark?
A parable. You mentioned parables. I said,
I mention
parable.
This is going off the rails. I knew this would.
Were you an anti-parable church? Man, Jesus spoke in parables.
Okay, before we get too far down this
rabbit hole, we had to speak because he can't write.
I knew this would go off the rails. We've got a call.
Dave, we've got a call. Barely begun.
Let's take the call. You guys are going to want to talk to him. He's in Florida. Him, friends with Drew. He didn't mention you, Lon. Wants to talk about his deconversion. It's Mason. I think we know who this is. Let's see if we can get him on. Mason, are you there, buddy?
I'm there. I'm here.
Hey, Mason. How you doing?
Mason, hello.
Yeah. I guess there's a delay we have to get used to.
Yeah. We'll try to let you talk a little bit. Say hi to Drew and Lon. Okay. You may know them both.
Hello, Mason.
I'm just call in and say hi to the Clergy Project All-Stars. I've never seen them like this. So.
Well, Mason, we're not
really superstars, every one of us.
Mason, if we were the All-Stars, you'd be here, brother. You'd be right here with us, man. So you're not, so we can't claim it. All right. We're the B spot.
You've been deconverted for a lot of years, if I'm correct, right, Mason?
Well, discombobulated first and then deconverted.
Fair enough. That happens to us all.
Yeah. What my deconversion story is probably one of the sweetest ones I've ever heard, because compared to what so many go through with the struggling and all this, it kind of happened by chance. And what happened, I was a pastor of Christian Faith Church, Pentecostal church in South Bend, Indiana. And we had 5 children, and we were just sick every winter, really. And a couple of kids real bad, and doctors recommended, get out of here. And we did, and we moved to Arizona, and all those health problems just disappeared with it that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't really been thinking about deconversion or anything. I was just, working a lot of Pentecostal pastors have a job and the church.
Yeah.
So I was working in the church and, really working quite hard. And so we got out there. I knew nobody in the town, nobody at all. Just knew we were going there for the weather to survive, get out of here. So the first Sunday I remember, if you're really programmed, indoctrinated, you miss church, you something's wrong. My mother brought us, when the church doors are open, you're going to be in there.
Oh,
or your butt's going to be sore. One or the other, take your choice. So the first Sunday I felt kind of guilty, but decided to go out in nature and do a little hiking, and the guilt kind of started evaporating pretty quick. And then we started saying, well, we got to be maybe looking for a church home, all the things you're supposed to do to relocate and get established with a church home before you start thinking. So another Sunday came, and we went fishing up at Lake Pleasant. And it just kind of dawned on me.
Wow,
all this time, you work your butt off all week long, like my parents did all their life, and what do they do with the free time? They go to church. Wow, this is it. So then after about the 3rd or 4th week, I realized I had slipped in the sin of Sundays free.
The sin
Which,
of what?
Sin of what? Sunday 3?
I had slipped into the sin of Sundays free.
Sundays free.
Because you missed 3 in a row, and yeah.
What a glorious time!
And all this
Sundays free.
All this time with my family.
Yeah.
So I kind of just started putting everything on hold, and I wasn't praying or anything, and I was as devout and gung ho. But all of this is so cultural, more than people I think recognize. You pull somebody out of their culture a while, probably be surprised how so many things would change quickly.
Oh yeah.
But what happened? I just quit going to church and everything and enjoying Sundays free. Didn't just think too much about any of that. And one day I was sitting there, we were out fishing or something, and looked down at a couple of my boys, and just like you talk about an epiphany, this was like, boom, a bolt in the head. Kill your son?
Yeah.
What? And because that Isaac and Abraham and blood sacrifice, but I knew it was crazy, but God can do anything, and it'll all be explained in the sweet by and by.
Yeah. That's what we
But
believe.
that didn't work that day. I just thought, oh my God, that's just really, that's sick. And I thought, and I've been studying some Carl Sagan then. And being expanded with the awe of the universe. I thought, oh my God, you mean a God of the universe? This is the best idea. First, I'll try to drown the people to straighten them out. If that doesn't work, I know what I'll do. Jesus, get over here. I want to kill you. But first, I'm going to talk to you by a virgin, and then I'm going to kill myself. So he committed suicide and killed his own son, and set the zombies off in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And it just all hit me as what it was, as nuts. And it was just as clear as that bolt. And then later I learned little religious anthropology, that all these religions are man-made bullshit. And out of about 150,000 years of modern humans, these Johnny-come-lately religions that haven't even been here for 99% of the time of humanity are the top franchises. And I thought, oh man, it's really deplorable. But I was just set free, hallelujah, from it all. Just by moving.
Mason.
Man, it is
so good to hear from you, brother.
I've known you a long time, and I did not know that that's how your deconversion happened. That's very organic, if you will, and kind of beautiful, in a sense. You didn't wrestle with a lot of the trauma and the questions that I know I did. But that's pretty cool. You just kind of let it go. Found out there's a better way to live.
Yeah, none of it. It's just like the detective found the DNA.
Yeah.
Case over, but it just how can anybody look at their son or daughter and think, in what universe is this okay for me to torture my child, crucify him, and kill him, because this is going to be a propitiation for somebody else's bad deeds? I mean, it's so crazy. And yet, and I was in it. I understand.
Mason.
I still have relatives in it, but I often think of the Aztecs or Incas and how proud they could be to have their virgin daughter taken before everybody and their heart cut out while they were living, and while still pumping, hold up, and the parents be proud of it. Now that's how powerful religious indoctrination is.
But Mason, yet, if God was real, if this God was real, and that's what was determined as good, was to sacrifice your kid X, Y, and Z, well, then how can we argue with that?
Well, didn't we have a call, Genevieve, where someone said that? We had a guest where they, maybe it was a different show, but we asked him, if God said you would kill your son, would you do it?
I mean, if it was real, right?
Yeah.
We laugh at it now because we're like, no, it's bullshit. But like, if it was actually real, scientifically proven, if we were able to go out and look at something, like there was verifiable evidence, like there was no dispute that this God really did create everything and really was the standard of good and morality and love. And yet somehow within that realm, we might not understand it, but nonetheless, it is verifiable truth that this is the best way to love. How can we debate that?
Yeah. If God
It's
says
only when we're on the other side that then we see how preposterous it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a great question. And I asked myself that one day, and my answer was, I'm on the other team. I will hunt down and kill that God and help those that are trying to kill it, because it's totally against my very core.
Right.
And the other part of the question, there's no evidence yet. But if there was, I'm on the other team.
Yeah, I think it might be one of the situations of the student surpassing the teacher. Even if this God did exist and our morality came from them, clearly our morality is just that much more that we can turn around and say, no, that's not how we do it anymore. You're wrong. Time to retire, old man.
Well, our morality has evolved beyond that, if you will, as you said, Genevieve. But we did have a person, I think, on this show, maybe another show, that we asked them directly, if God told you to kill your son, would you do it? And they said yes. And that's alarming. You know, people in the real world, when they hear those voices, we put them in some places they can't hurt anybody, because that's insanity, if you will. But if it's in the Bible and we attribute those voices to God, then it's okay because God said it. That's insanity.
Well, I was at a Thanksgiving dinner, and I did that because my wife's brother he's a raging evangelical, and we were sitting there, and there was probably 20 people, and somehow religion came up, and I said to him, his name is John, if you heard the voice of God very clearly, didn't have to even be hiding in a burning bush, just come right up your face and said, I want you to kill your son as a sacrifice to me, and so on and so forth. Would you do it? And he said, hell yes, I would do it. And everybody, his son who was sitting next to him, just gasped.
He ran. I'm out of here.
This other brother-in-law, he said, hell no, he was a Catholic. He said, hell no, I wouldn't do it, and God would have to come through me to get my son.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know if you're interested in hearing it, but I have a story of a parishioner who actually did hear God tell them to kill their grandkid.
How'd it go?
That's scary. Hey,
no,
Mason, I'm gonna let you go because we've got our buddy Duane on the phone. We've been trying, but thank you for calling. And really, I'm really glad to hear your deconversion story.
Good to hear you, brother.
I'd never known that, but so good to talk to you, Mason.
Well, thanks for recording and use it for posterity.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Good to hear from you. Take care.
I just wanted to mention that I've got 3 sons, and they're all bigger than I am. Oh, and they're younger too.
So you can't take them, right?
Forget about it.
Yeah. Well, Duane from the tent is calling in because he couldn't log in with the Wi-Fi out there in Southeast Oklahoma, shockingly. So he is able to talk, hopefully. So let's get Duane on the phone.
I can talk.
Hey.
Hi there.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey, Duane.
Hey,
how you doing?
Duane.
Well, I promise you I can talk. I used to do it for a living. So,
I know you can talk.
All right. This is so exciting. You know what, though? Doing this, lining this show up was really interesting for me because it reminded me of an incident from back in the preaching days when I used to actually use the name Reverend. I was called on Wednesday. Guy called me. And this is what Lon called me. I was in Los Angeles. And he said to me, Dave, I'd like to have in the show. So I said, sure, absolutely. And Lon, buddy, no mention of which Monday night it was going to be, right? So okay, turns out to be one of the nights of traveling. So, okay, fine. I'll find a way to get this done.
Details.
Years ago, somebody called me from the largest evangelical church in the Dominican Republic. Calls me, and he says, brother, can you be here Saturday? I mean, can you believe that? Like I'm going to pick up and fly to another country find a place for my kids to stay while I'm gone, and I'll be there in 3 days. All right. So I said no, and he said, "But you have to. I've already told the people you were coming."
He had faith and you didn't, is what happened.
Oh my goodness!
Oh
He had
yeah.
so much faith he didn't wear a belt or suspenders. So anyway, here I am. I mean, and I see my name in the all over social media, so I had to be here. So I did it. Sort of, but not really.
Tell us, Duane, real quick, what your ministry experience was. I met you in Toronto a couple years ago. Is that correct?
You certainly did. And what a lovely time that was.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think in that I was speaking at Greta Vosper's church, and she's a Clergy Project member. She's a pastor who's an atheist, which I love her story. And I'll be seeing her again in August. I'm speaking at a conference where she's going to be speaking as well. But I think in that church there were 5 of us there that morning that were Clergy Project members, if I recall.
Yes,
so we got a picture.
That's right. Catherine Roberts was there with her husband Sheldon as well.
Yeah,
and my wife and I were there. Yeah.
What was your pastoral experience, and how did you connect, and when did you connect with the Clergy Project? And you got to be brief. I know you're a talker, so I can't let you drone on.
Oh yeah, that's right. Hand the preacher a microphone and tell him to be brief. Good move, buddy. Okay. Okay. I started very young, and somewhere around 17, I started preaching. Got into Bible college, blah blah blah. And most of my work was evangelism, guest speaker, that sort of thing. And I just sort of grew and grew, and I got more popular. I got practically famous in the Caribbean for some reason. I pastored twice, and they were both not long periods of time. One was for a couple of years, and then another one, there was a Church of God up in Ontario.
Well, was it Pentecostal? What brand were you, Duane?
Oh, the worst.
Pentecostal, yeah.
Okay, I studied, my schooling was Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada.
Okay.
And then I went to an independent eventually that was even more radical. But if you know the Church of God at Cleveland, Tennessee.
Oh yeah. The right Church of God, because there's 15 versions of the Church of God.
There you go. But the one from Cleveland, Tennessee, they claim to be the biggest in the world. So my U.S. ordination came through them, a little umbrella group there. And so there, and most of what I did was speaking and public appearances. You're always public appearances. Geez, what's that all about?
Yeah.
So essentially, I hate the word evangelist because I don't believe I ever spoke to anyone who didn't want to listen, and I never went anywhere I wasn't invited. So I don't know what kind of evangelism that is, but that was my gig.
Okay. And when did you come to the end of your faith, and when did you connect with the Clergy Project, and what was your motivation to find them, if you will?
Okay, here's what it is. I got not a terminal illness, but I got a life-threatening illness. I had hepatitis C.
All right.
And when I was diagnosed, the diagnosis was, get your affairs in order and keep them that way. You're not going to die next week, but you're going to die, young. Okay. And what happened was I was probably a very good apologist. I could counter. I never met somebody with an objection to the Bible that I couldn't put in their place. The Bible's full of contradictions. Show me, and I never met someone I couldn't fix. Mm-hmm. What threw me off? What made me deconvert started out to be the behavior of so-called Christians. What people would do, and even worse, what they wouldn't do. When I got sick, I was at the peak of my preaching career. My strangers who I'd never heard of would find my mother and claim to be my best friend forever. And we went to school together. My mother would call me and say this, and I wouldn't have heard of the person. So everybody wants on your bandwagon when you're riding high. You know that, Dave, don't you? So anyway, I'm not watching, so I hope you're smiling.
I'm always smiling.
So anyway, I started getting kicked when I was down. And, you know, one of the people who did a lot of work for me in Trinidad in the West Indies, basically he was visiting Toronto, and he said to me, "You don't have enough faith." He said about my illness. He said, "If I were you, I would tell Satan to go, and I would rebuke him." Okay, like, yeah, sure. So basically, it got worse. I actually ended up homeless for 8 months.
Wow.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, I found that there were people who would do a little for you, but the people who would help and were people who were not believers, not even Christians. You know, I had 2 children with me at the time. I was a full-time single parent, and you know, my daughters were 15 and 13, and we were living in a tent.
Kind of like you are right now,
but we were
apparently.
living in one back. That's right. And you know,
looks like you're back to that now, Duane.
Hey?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said kind of like you are right now, apparently.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go with it. So
Okay.
anyway, the behavior, you know, there's a guy the church, my home church, 3,000 people in it. And a good number of them knew exactly what was happening. Do you think that one person would open their door? Nobody.
Wow.
So, you know, that's what put me off. I mean, and what happened in October, my counselor and credentials expired in October of 2005. My ministry credentials expired in March of 2006, and I left them, and I just didn't renew, and I just moved on. And I was angry. I was bitter. I couldn't believe it. I felt so. I didn't know whether I was relieved, or I didn't know why I was relieved. But now the unburdening of all this nonsense, because you know, we all know if you were taken on day one, and okay, everyone sit down and listen closely. This is day one as a Christian. This is everything. You'd leave before lunch. You wouldn't stick around for this nonsense. So to have it, you know, it gradually over a period of years, I got saved, quote unquote, when I was 14. And you're vulnerable and pliable at that age.
Yeah.
And I was a Jesus people, by the way. It was tail end of the Jesus people movement. And you know what happens is you get you build up this, let's call it a stress over years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly to have it all gone, I couldn't believe how good I felt. Well, just so I don't take up all night here, I heard about the Clergy Project in 2011, and I was intrigued. But then I thought, I wonder if this is just going to be a bunch of crybabies who are, you know, whining about how mean the church is. I didn't look into it any further, but I took note. I didn't join until 2017, and now I think, what did you wait for so long? This was just amazing.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, there's so many people out there. If you're warming a pew, okay, you know, that's fine. But there's certain things you do not understand. You're not the one getting those 3:00 in the morning phone calls because someone died, they're in the hospital, or they had an accident, or whatever. You're not the one being called on to do the funerals for close friends and family members. I have a funny story about having to do a funeral for a friend. I didn't get drunk, but you're standing at the pulpit. I had a coffee mug with what's that German cough medicine? Jägermeister.
Oh.
And I had
cough medicine.
People who know me well know me. I'm a bit of a Jaguar freak. I love Jaguar cars. So I went to the chaplain, the funeral home's chaplain office had a bunch of, you know, common order. I took the biggest common order book they had. I mean, I didn't need it. And I stuck a Jaguar magazine in the middle of it so that when people were talking, I could focus on the magazine so I could keep myself together emotionally.
Wow. That's, I've never heard of that.
It was rough.
Wow.
But you're right. You know, that's, the people don't realize when you're a pastor, when you're in charge, you know, when I won't say in charge, but when people are looking to you for certain answers, for certain things, And I remember when I was writing my memoir, and I was writing about a chapter in the book when a church member of ours got burned in a fire, and we did a 24/7 prayer vigil for him through the summer, and then he died. And people were looking to me, explain this, Dave. You know, we prayed, God didn't come. God didn't come through. The pressure that I felt, not only for my own faith to have answers to what happened, but to respond to the people who looked to me for answers. And because I didn't want to make shit up, but I wanted to believe that God was there, and I couldn't make sense of what wasn't adding up for me personally and for the church members that were looking to me for answers. People that haven't experienced that kind of pressure don't really understand it. I mean, Lon, you and Drew have heard, and you too, Duane, statistics on the stress level of clergy and how much higher that is than the average population. It's for that reason, I think. The cognitive dissonance of what you believe should be happening with the God that you believe in, and needing answers for the people that look to you, and then not being able to put those pieces together. It's enormous.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it is. And you know, you have to these trite answers. God had a better way.
Yeah, and God knows we don't understand His ways. Oh. Yeah, bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Duane, I know you got to build a campfire there. We've got another call that I want us to get to. Well, sorry we couldn't get you on for the show on, but we'll do another one sometime, and you can maybe be in an actual building with Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Oh, I live in an actual building now. I'm not homeless anymore.
I know.
Yeah, so we'll do this again. I do look forward to it. The other thing is, Lon and I were talking about August. That's not too far. It's in Sarnia, I think. We were talking about maybe making it, and I'm hoping I can make it up there and see it again in person.
That'd be great, man. It's August in Sarnia, the conference there with. It should be great. A lot of good speakers, and then there's also me. So come if you can.
Yes, the end of August. I've got it marked on my calendar.
It's a few a couple hundred miles away from where I live, so it shouldn't be that difficult. If I can drive from Los Angeles to Toronto in 6 days, I think I can make Sarnia.
I think you can. I'll look for you there, buddy. Thanks for calling in.
Well,
thanks, Wayne. Take care, buddy.
You guys have a wonderful rest of the night, and happy Easter.
Take care, Duane.
He is risen. No, he isn't.
Good to hear from your brother.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
I do want to get this other call before we run out of time. I'm thinking, Duane he's a hoot. Did you tell me he does stand up now, Lon, or has done stand up?
No, he used to. He's been a professional comedian. He knows a lot of people in the industry.
I can believe it.
Maybe I'll mention quick before you run to the next call. I see a question in here asking about support for clergy who are still believers.
Yes.
So where the Clergy Project is for specifically those who are of a quote unquote naturalist. You don't have to be an atheist, identify as an atheist, but naturalistic, right? No supernatural beliefs.
Right.
For those who are still believers, but are clergy looking for support, Recovering from Religion does have, which if we're familiar with Daryl Ray and Recovering from Religion, they do have a what would we call it? I think an area of a chat community. I'm lagging on exactly how they describe it, but they have a chat community, we'll call it, that is for religious leaders, clergy, and does not require that you be a naturalist like the Clergy Project does. So they'll provide support for anyone and everyone who's a clergy and could use that.
Good point, man. Good point. That's glad you got that in, Drew. David is in New York. Him, member of the Clergy Project, wants to say hi. David, are you there?
I am here.
Hey there.
That sounds like David Madison. How are you, brother?
Hello, Dave.
I'm fine.
David Madison. Yeah. Hey. How you doing?
I became an atheist when I had finished my PhD in biblical studies.
That'll do it.
At Boston University. I served 9 years in churches. But, you know, I always say that the seminaries exist to manufacture clergy. But if you study the Bible too carefully, too closely, things tend to fall apart. And that's what happened to me during those 9 years when I was serving as a pastor. And by the time I had finished my PhD in biblical studies, it was over and I had to transition out. And I look back and I say, gosh, I wish the Clergy Project had been available back then, because it was an extremely difficult, painful transition from, you know, just imagine here I have a graduate degree in sacred theology. I have a PhD in biblical studies. How do you sell that to the business world?
Right.
And the issue is, of course, you don't.
What did you do? What did you transition into, David?
Well, I had a parishioner who was a gung-ho insurance salesman, and he thought I would be terrific at selling insurance. His boss agreed with that because of all the people I knew. And so I was hired by the insurance company just outside of Boston. And the first day on the job, I was handed this big sheet of paper that said, "Who do you know?" with 200 names. And then I was given a cubicle and a phone. And, you know, during the year I did that, I sold $1 million worth of insurance. So I was good at it, but I hated every minute of it.
Oh,
I hated it more than I hated it more than I hated the ministry. I identified with Woody Allen's statement that a fate worse than death is spending an evening with a life insurance salesman. I was a salesman. I knew exactly what he was talking about. But then I used that to transition to another job.
right.
I moved to New York City. And because I had done so well selling insurance, I was hired by a personnel agency to sell people to companies. But that grew, that transition. I was eventually hired to be the director of an association of career coaches that help people find better jobs. But I retired from that in 2014.
David, I didn't realize that. You used to work as a career coach. I knew the insurance part.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good to hear from you, brother.
In fact, that was something like 17 years I did that. But
That's interesting. I transitioned from ministry into insurance as well, but I got into a different kind of it, I think, and I made good money and I liked it. So I think there's different shoes for everybody, but it's kind of interesting because clergy are a perfect fit for sales because we've been selling Jesus this whole time anyway. And now at least we can sell a real product, you know, that can actually help someone. Toy Ranch, thank you for that super chat.
That's the truth.
So David, go ahead, Drew. Or Lon, I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, Dave, if you'd like to lead us in the chorus of Blessed Insurance.
No.
No.
There'll be no hymns on this show.
Insurance.
There'll be no hymns on this show.
Jesus is mine.
And a shout out to Peter MacArthur. He's one of us. I saw him scroll up the
I
comments
didn't see it.
column
No.
over there. Yeah. And also, of course, a shout out to Judas for the 3-day weekend. Way to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Judas, for a long weekend.
Thank you, Judas.
I did want to ask, how many members are there in the Clergy Project now? I know you went past the 1,000-member mark last year.
Yeah, where are we at, Lon?
1,185, and participants in the Clergy Project come from 49 states. We have no participants in North Dakota, but that's only because no one lives in North Dakota. We're also in, really, I mean, anybody.
Somebody does. Now, Drew, Lon, you're going to hurt someone's feelings. Someone lives there.
No,
someone does.
I don't think so.
Gotta. All right.
We're also in 7 Canadian
we
provinces.
North Dakotan to register for the Clergy Project to make it all 50.
That's right. That's right. We're looking for you.
Lon's going to pay you $1,000 in North Dakota. North Dakotan to apply.
Toy Ranch, thank you for your $10 super chat before this goes completely off the rails. Derek Cruz, thank you for your $2 super chat. David Madison is awesome. He says you got a fan there, David. And I did see a question in the chat that's asking about women in the Clergy Project. Talk about that, Lon.
Yeah, approximately 14% of Clergy Project participants are women. I think that's probably a larger proportion than are actually religious leaders out there, but that's only because, of course, women are smarter than men.
Well, we all know that, don't we, Genevieve?
Yeah, without a doubt. Nobody's going to debate that. I also
No.
wanted to mention that we are in more than 50 countries around the world. 1,185 of us, just the tip of the iceberg. Most religious leaders do not believe the bullshit they're paid to peddle. It's a matter of what they're going to do with that realization. Are they going to stick with it because they're good at it? Are they going to stick with it because they're getting rich? Are they going to stick with it because they haven't a clue of anything else they could do? Are they going to join the Clergy Project? A lot of people do, but I think probably the vast majority don't. They find their way and make their way in life and move along. But we're a reasonably intelligent group of people, and so I believe we all figure it out sooner or later. I was a little slow myself.
Oh, I was too. I was 3.5 decades in it.
Yeah,
David Madison. How many years was it between the time you were identifying as an atheist before you found the Clergy Project? How long was that?
Oh, that was a long time. I left the ministry, gave up ordination, I believe, in 1976, 1977.
Wow.
I didn't come across the Clergy Project until 2013, 2014, something like that. Mm-hmm. And the woman who did the screening interview with me was Teresa McBain.
Oh. Well, there's another story.
Wow, there is another story.
Teresa is a little okay. I don't know.
She's
Teresa
gone back to the faith. She's Christian.
Found God again. That was the whole thing.
Something that somebody just said reminded me. A number of years ago, I was having a conversation with a prominent Italian journalist, and I said to him, "Can it possibly be true that the Vatican hierarchy really believes in all this crap they teach about transubstantiation and the bodily assumption of Mary into heaven and the infallibility of the Pope?" And he said, "Oh, maybe about half of them do, but remember, it's a business."
Yeah, it is a business, a big business, tax-free business, by the way.
Yeah. And, if you're trapped in that, for decades, even if you no longer believe, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's too uncomfortable. It's too stressful to leave.
I want to get one thing. There was in the chat, Darren Wright. I see your chat again about the question about preachers' kids. I lived through it. It was rough, but I don't remember. Pose that as a question. Do you know what that is, Genevieve?
The initial comment that I have that I did put aside, I wasn't going to forget.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Please ask about preachers' kids who became atheists, either as a preacher's kid or later in life. So to phrase it as a question, I guess it would sort of depend if you yourselves were preachers' kids or if you have children who became atheists while you were still believers.
Well, apparently Darren is he was a preacher's kid, and it was rough as a preacher's kid. I'm 51 and an atheist now, but a lot of damage done. Mm-hmm. I guess you guys want to speak to that.
I think religious leaders should not have kids.
There's your answer.
That's all I got to say about that.
Well, I think to his point though that the preachers' kids, any Christian's kids, but preachers more so, the kids they don't really have a choice. They're gonna be, you're gonna be a good little Christian soldier because I've got an image to maintain. Mm-hmm. So PKs and MKs, missionary kids, I think do have it rougher in the sense that every eye is on them. In the congregation, everybody's watching that kid, and there's intense pressure to perform, and they can have it rougher if you get out of line, it's going to make me look bad. There's scriptures that talk about having your household in order. And so I guess Darren also, I'm seeing in the chat before we get away from this. Is there support for P-kids who become atheist? Is that a subset of the Clergy Project, or should it be? Maybe if it's not. Speak to that, presidents, el presidentes.
Go ahead, Drew.
Well, I mean, I guess in terms of, that one very specific question of, is there a space within the Clergy Project for PK kids? I mean, I think, Lon, unless anything's changed, TCP is still specifically for the religious leaders themselves, not for family members, right? So
exactly, not even for spouses of religious leaders,
right?
And I think the best
resource, that's to make sure,
you've got to have some boundaries, if you will, because and there's other organizations that cover those other needs. I see it in the chat, and I got cookies. Thank you for that. The Recovery from Religion has some chat rooms and chat people that are very dedicated to that particular topic, because that is a whole other animal. The pressure that is on preachers' kids to perform, and so Darren, I hear you, man. I feel your pain. I'm really sorry that you've gone through that, and there are resources there to work through that trauma, because I know it's pretty intense.
And that's where I point folks toward is Recovering from Religion. They have chat groups for pretty much just about everything in existence, and if they don't have a specific one for your particular community, they have tons of a little more general, a little more loose chats that are really good there.
And they're incredible. And I was just with Daryl and Gail at the Atheist Convention and caught up with them, and they just continue to do such amazing work.
I passed that back to Drew because I was distracted by the comments. Somebody going by here to me said that they learned about the Clergy Project from my son.
Oh, yeah, I saw
from
that.
Your son. Oh, wow.
From my son.
Okay.
Who does not identify as an atheist yet. I also wanted to mention that our son's youth pastor is also a member of the Clergy Project.
I like how Lon said does not identify as an atheist yet. I like how he said that.
Yeah, I mean, my kids, so I think when you look at it, you know how they say, some people say the money is the root of all evil. Other people say that money merely emphasizes your true, I don't know, how the fuck did they say it? That it emphasizes your true, who you really are, right? When you have money, when you have means, it simply gives you the opportunity to really live out what's truly within to its greatest extent, right? So are you someone who truly helps people, or are you someone who actually, you're going to be the biggest asshole you always wanted to be before? Now you have the money to do it fully. I think in a way, flip the lens a little bit. As far as kids go, PKs go, they see the minister, the religious leader, more fully than anybody to who they truly are.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty much the same person I was as a minister. That said, I was on the more progressive end, right? So my kids, one thing I'll be thankful for with my kids is they really remember hardly anything. They were 8 and 10 when we left the church. They were 8 and 10. That said, they were steeped in it. I really truly believed this stuff. We talked about it all the time. We talked about it every day in our home.
Mine were too, and 2 of mine are still in it. Yeah.
That said, they don't really remember anything. Their biblical literacy is 0 right now.
Worse than yours?
So thankful for that. Yeah, worse than mine. I'm so thankful. They don't even remember who Noah is or the ark. They're they don't know anything. It's amazing. At least one of my kids, well, this is a few years ago, going back a few years ago, I deconverted 10 years ago, right? So a few years ago, the one, she had said, listen, maybe I'm an atheist, maybe not. The way I look at it, I'm young. Why do I need to check a box? I'll land where I land. I don't care. Both of my kids are open. I've told both of my kids, if you end up as Christians, if you land on Christianity, like, go for it. That's fine. I just want you happy. I just want you be your truest self. Wherever that lands, you'll always be accepted. That said, neither one of them.
I've met your kids. They're awesome, by the way. I'm gonna, David.
Right, you have.
David, I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna close the shot in just a couple of minutes. We got to wrap some things up. But it's so good to hear from you. Thanks for calling, man.
Hey, Dave. I see heretic in me is Steve Russell, my kid's youth pastor, just as I suspected.
Oh, wow.
Spreading the good word. Spreading the good word.
Pseudonyms. We love pseudonyms.
So in the chat, there's a question from Bill Castle. Wondering if there's anybody famous in the Clergy Project, anyone we would see on TV.
Well, of course, we couldn't say who that might be. And fame is relative. So, I mean, there's some people that are very well known within certain regions and areas of the church.
It's a secret society, if you will. It's one reason there's a tough screening process to even become a member is that a lot of people's identity needs to be protected. As we haven't mentioned yet, but a big part of the Clergy Project is the online forum, which is very private and protected. And there are a lot of clergy still in churches doing their job who don't believe, and they're stuck there because they don't know of a different way to make a living because all they've got is a fucking Bible degree from a stupid Bible college. And it's one of the biggest challenges to transition. I know my good friend Carter Warden, who was an original Clergy Project member, spent 6 years. I just was with him last week at where he works. He got me in to speak at the college, but he had to stay 6 years in ministry, trying until he could find a way to make a living outside.
Well, there was someone, Dave, back in 2017. So this is a few years ago now, but there was someone, who was a very well-known name, who was planning to come out publicly and then decided not to, and they still haven't. So I mean, they're everywhere. Like, I think back to when I was figuring out everything during my 2-year voyage of what the hell is all this. I went to a group of 20 fundamentalist ministers in my hometown. Well, the town that I was in, that I was pastoring in, and was like, I'm on the brink of wrestling for my faith. Like, I'm not sure I believe in the existence of God anymore. I need you guys to help me. Somebody tutor me. Somebody meet with me one-on-one. I need you guys' help. And they looked at me kind of hemming and hawing. I read about this in the book more in depth in one of my books, Rise and Fall of Faith. And they looked around, hemmed and hawed, and it was all awkward silence. And then finally one of them said, listen, Drew, you're not wrestling with anything none of us have we've all wrestled with what you're wrestling with right now. And I was waiting for somebody to be like, well, not me. No, nobody. There were 20 of them. Nobody said that they hadn't gone through this. Every one of them was fighting for their faith. Just none of them were brave enough to actually confront it. And they're all in.
It takes a lot of courage.
Still in ministry today.
You're sold in. You're locked in, and you double down. You've got the sunk cost fallacy going on. And on the other side of this coin, coming from Nashville, I get inside information that I've had for years of these Christian music people. You talk about clergy who don't believe anymore, the Christian musicians who don't believe anymore, but their whole livelihood is tucked into that thing, and they could lose everything. And they're afraid to transition into. Some of them have tried to transition into secular music and couldn't get the audience they had. So it's not an uncommon problem at all. But back to the original question, I know that Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, and Dan Barker were key in forming the TCP. Is that correct, Lon and Drew, if I remember right?
Yes, and Linda Lascola.
That's right. So those are some names you might be familiar with. But they were instrumental in getting things started. Thank you, Aunt Kathy, for your $4.99. You all offer hope to many who feel trapped. And that is a key word, trapped. Trapped is the feeling that you have I mean, a panic almost when your job every week is to lead the flock, if you will, and you're having increasing doubts. Now, this wasn't my experience, but I've talked to so many whose it was, where you there's almost a cold sweat you break out in every Sunday because I've got to get up again and lie, essentially, to these people who are looking to me as a mouthpiece for God. It's a horrible, horrible position to be in. There are people who criticize that, saying, well, you're a phony then. You should just walk away. That's easy to say. That's not easy to do.
No, and many religious leaders, their housing is provided by the religious organization, so they can walk away, but they're homeless.
And their whole family's involved in it.
Yeah.
And the family doesn't even know they're struggling with their faith, because you could lose your family, your job, your home, everything.
You also have this whole thing of, listen, when you're the leader, it's your job of anything. It's your job to protect the people you're leading, right? So, I mean, like, as I've talked with different pastors who do believe, and you ask them, so any little questions you have, do you stand up on Sunday morning and air those questions? Well, no, that'd be irresponsible. I'm there to protect them. Right. I have to deal with it. I put the shield up. I'm the one defending it all, right? And so it would be irresponsible for me as a leader to air every single question mark before my people.
No,
I need to help encourage them, to strengthen them, not wear them down. So no, you don't. The most faithful, still believing Christian leaders will readily say, no, you don't share that stuff with your flock.
No, you keep it private.
Your church. Yeah. No, you hold that stuff within, and you defend the faith, and you encourage them. You don't discourage them. But then all of a sudden, one day, it flips, and now there are more doubts than there is belief. But like, so it's not like there's some clear line where you step over it. No, it's this gradation of gradual push.
Listen, I've got to say a couple of things, Genevieve. I knew that with 3 ex-preachers, you would hardly get a word in.
Dave, you only let her ask one question. What the hell?
I don't know. And then we had calls.
You were going to join the panel.
I know.
She barely spoke.
I know. That's, I am not bothered at all. In fact, what I've realized is that Clergy Project get-togethers must be the most incredible time. Because as ex-pastors, all of you guys are just so charismatic and funny as shit. I bet, it's just a hoot. So
we talked about having a retreat or something. I know years ago. I don't think it's ever been actually done, but we really... We got to do that.
Yeah.
Hey, before we run out of time, I was supposed to make this announcement at the front of the show, and I'm now running out of time to make it. But we're making a major announcement here for the show. We are going to be changing the time of the show. And it's not going to be next week, but the first week in May, we're going to be starting the show at 9 p.m. Eastern time instead of 7, 2 hours later. And there's many reasons for that. One, it's hard for people in Central and especially Pacific time zones to be here with us live. And we want to make as much opportunity for people to be with us live as we can. And so moving it a couple hours later is going to help a lot of people do that. And so those of you who are regular viewers, make note of that. Not next week. We'll be on the same time, same bat channel next week. And then but then 2 weeks from tonight, first Monday in May, we're going to be coming to you live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific. So just make note of that, and we'll be obviously posting that when we post updates on the show. God, this went fast. Again, Genevieve, sorry we didn't get.
This has been a great time.
It's been fun. Lon, Drew, you guys, please go find a personality somewhere because you guys need it.
Oh, this fucker.
Dude, move, Dave.
Hey, by the way, I was going to tell you guys, I got to preach Easter at the American Atheist Conference. I had the 11 o'clock time slot. I opened with the scripture. And I don't know when was the last time you guys preached on Easter. Mine was 2008. So it had been a while since I'd given
2012.
I'd given a talk on Easter Sunday, but I got to do that this past weekend. It was a blast. We had a great conference. But I wanted to let my fellow clergy know that I was doing the Lord's work yesterday morning in Atlanta.
Lord, which Lord? Which Lord's work were you doing there, Dave?
The Flying Spaghetti Monster, of course.
Ah, of course. Yes.
Lon, Drew, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Duane, if you're still watching from a tent somewhere in Middle America, thank you for trying to log in and calling in. David and Mason, thanks for calling in. Genevieve, thanks for watching this shit show.
Yeah.
And everybody, there's Drew's book, The Rise and Fall of Faith. It's probably the second best memoir written by an ex-clergy besides mine.
Dan Barker did say years before Dave wrote his, Dan Barker said this is the wittiest account of a reverend on the run in publication.
Reverend on the run.
But that was before Dave wrote his. So his is the new number one.
And I haven't written mine yet, so
come on, Lon. Come on.
Then that will be number one. Mine will
you
be
can
pushed
pass
back
us
to number
both.
3.
I'm too fucking lazy to write a book.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, Marit.
Come on.
See, I see Marit in the chat. She says, thanks for the time change, Dave. She lives in California. See, that's why we're doing it for you, Marit.
Yeah.
Love
and
you.
I see Neil is here.
Neil says, am I late?
You're late today. You will be on time.
Neil, the
not
604.
next week, but the week after.
See, Neil, we're making this change for you too, brother, so that you West Coasters can join us live. But thanks, we're out of time. Thanks for tuning in again. That's our show. See you next week.